day of ISBA. So do we want to, well, before I ask you if you want to keep the meeting or not, in July, I'm turning 70 and I'm doing a 20-day meditation for my 70th birthday.
Wow.
I'm in noble silence, my friends. So, and that will also be during one of our meetings. So we've got questions about both June and July. Is it too much to do this with ISBA going on, or do you want to check in? Realizing that you can always meet in July, of course, without me if you all want to gather, but since it's July, I'm guessing that you don't.
I would want to compete with, and I think it's live on the 25th ISBA for the COVID panel. So
we don't want to do that.
I don't think we want to compete with that.
Okay.
I mean, it would be, oh yeah, and then the next weekend is July 4th weekend, so that's not going to work. We may have to wait until August.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. People are so busy. And I mean, I'm probably going to be gone the end of July now also. So otherwise I would take over for Susan.
I'm actually going to be on vacation at the end of July as well. So
yeah, so
did push
there we go.
Okay, so
August will be the next meeting.
August 27th. Okay.
That's not your birthday.
Okay. The next thing is that we have a kind of special treat today from New York before we have report-ins. And by way of introduction, I've just been thinking a lot. I think a lot more about all of you than you think of me and Arch probably, but we follow your work really closely, and it's like you're kind of in the middle of it, so maybe you don't all realize some of the stupendous things that you accomplish, but Jill and I notice and observe. And so that having been said, I want to take you back to the beginning of this group, the sustainability group, and even further back. So some of you may recall there were 6 states that got grants to use the toolkit for sustainability planning. And Arch was evaluating those, and actually Cassandra Furman was working on that, and she had a caregiving to do in her family. So she and Jill asked me to do that. And I'm an ethnographer. I'm a qualitative researcher by training. I used to teach it. So I went in not knowing really about the grants and the programs and asked really open-ended questions and learned a lot from the 6 grantees. And that became lessons learned. It's on the Arch website. But there were some really key important lessons that I heard over and over again. Remember, open-ended, unsolicited, people were saying the same things. And so we learned some really important things about outside facilitation, about perseverance with the process, with making sure that the leaders, the knowledgeable leaders, could participate through that outside participation. And I was just thinking, I've been thinking the last few days, anticipating New York reporting in today, about how the efforts of New York to do sustainability planning have just kind of checked everything off the list. You're sort of a dream come true for me to see you all accomplish this, and to be with you in real time, observing. You've persevered through COVID. You've got all the right people involved. You're enthusiastic still about the process rather than feeling kind of downtrodden and overwhelmed. And so I'm fascinated by how you're accomplishing all this in addition to what you've accomplished. And I'm real proud of you all. So that having been said, some of you have been with New York from the beginning of this, some haven't. So give us a little, background and tell us where you are. And for those of you attending ISBA, I hope all of us are, New York's going to present this at the ISBA conference, so you can see the whole wonderful presentation. So this is a sample of it. And I hate
So
New York.
so thank you. Those are very kind words. And you're right. I probably don't, it doesn't seem like such a huge accomplishment. It's taken us so long to do it, but can I share my screen?
You should be able to.
Okay.
Let me know.
Yeah, I have to, my monitor broke this morning, so I'm kind of going with, there we go. You got that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So do you see, I don't want you to see that. Why does it do that?
Oh, I think you have to put it on.
Show taskbar. We're going to have to practice, Dina, so this doesn't happen.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll just do it like this. Okay. Because we're just being casual, and I'm not going to really go through everything that I'm going to probably say at ISBA, but it's good practice, so I appreciate the opportunity. So we finished the toolkit, woohoo, which was just like last month.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so we did it in 3 retreats over 4 years and 1 sustainability summit. We were going to finalize it with the 2nd sustainability summit, but we got sidelined by COVID, and we have another one to be in October, but I think I'm writing the final draft of the sustainability plan, and we're probably just going to update it once we do the conference. So I just want to put it to paper. So we use the Lifespan Respite Toolkit, of course, and I talk about that a little bit. But the biggest part for us was that we hired a consultant, and I called him our facilitator extraordinaire. He's amazing in person. I know many of you might have seen him at the International Research Conference. He did present. So we used a facilitator because, quite honestly, I was completely overwhelmed by the toolkit, and I walked into Tom's office and I plopped it on his desk, and he goes, "Oh, this is great stuff, but there's a lot of it. So we're just going to kind of pull out what we need to do, and it'll be great." And so that's what he did. So in the first retreat, we did the first 2 modules, and this is kind of how we did it. These were our objectives, really looking at the coalition building, self-assessment of our own work. We had to score our progress. We did the performance measures, the action steps, and the challenges to sustainability, all outlined in the first 2 modules of the toolkit. And this is how we did it. We had walls built.
I think an important point to point out, I just thought it was an interesting observation with when we did the self-assessment, NYSOFA kind of went through on their own, and the coalition went through on their own. And in some areas, we saw things the same, but it was very, interesting, right? When we were kind of talking it through, where some of the self-assessment, we were nowhere near each other in how we were looking at. Yeah. And it helped, though, I think, because it helped us understand each other's perspective in trying to get to where we were trying to get. But I thought it was an interesting observation.
Yeah, because I kind of forgot about that, Dina. I remember the discussion being, what are we really looking to sustain here? And what we ultimately decided was that the coalition itself was the most vulnerable piece of the Lifespan Respite Grant. That the state would back a lot of that other stuff, where the coalition might lose. We might lose in that battle. So that was a really interesting conversation to have, state versus the coalition folks. So thank you for pointing that out, Dina. I think I'll put it in my other presentation. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point too, that I think other states would love to hear more about that.
Okay. So that we filled the walls with, Tom just filled the walls with papers. He was most grateful for colored markers, which I thought was pretty funny, because he said, wow, over at the U of R, I could only get black markers. So he was just really excited. So this is how we really started. What does it look like? We had deep and enriching conversation, and we came out with and we knew what the goal was. We just didn't know quite how to get there. And then we took a look at what we'd accomplished, what we really defined as lifespan respite. We identified our most, after all that, then he circled all the things that we thought were the strongest components and what our accomplishments were. And that was really good conversation to have because, you know, like you said, Susan, in the beginning, when you're in the midst of it, you don't really realize what you're accomplishing. But when you put it on paper and you start talking about it, it's really quite amazing. And I walked out feeling exhausted just from that conversation. So we looked at our lessons learned. We really looked at our stakeholders. Who were the people that we really wanted to engage? That's a question that we ask ourselves all the time. How can we expand our network? And what our resources were, who these people are that we can go and strengthen the coalition and our opportunities, all that stuff was just in guided conversation by the facilitator. And then he made us rate ourselves. And looking back at this, it kind of blows my mind that we were really brutally honest, I think, Dina, don't you think? It was a really hard discussion to put letter grades to these kinds of things, but we did. And we came out knowing that we really, really had a lot of work to do. It's continuous work. And I don't think we'll ever get to that elusive A+ in every category, but we can try, right? So there you go. We looked at our vision. This is bothering me. Can I move it? I can. Okay. So we looked at our vision, our vision, what strategies and activities we needed to get there and how we were going to measure those outcomes. Just really, and this, I have to tell you, this is all outlined in the toolkit, the way you get to this. It's just the talent of the facilitator that made us be able to just do it in that really confined time and space. And then, of course, with Tom, if you have an evaluator as your facilitator, you're going to get into the how do we measure it? How do we make sure we're on track? How do we stay on track? What are our challenges and what are our strategies to get there? And this was our first roadmap of progress. So Tom put together a timeline for us to make sure that we were staying on track. And I don't know, Jill, is all this on the website or just some of it? I know I saw a couple of our pictures, but.
Yeah, I think I only recognize some of it. So it'll be great to have your slides.
Well, you will. Okay. So, the yellow part is where we got sidelined by COVID, but I'm really excited to say that we're going at it and we're going to do it virtually. We had a whole lot of discussion on whether or not we were going to try and do a live event or a hybrid event or whatever it was going to be, but we ultimately decided to stick with virtual. And I hope that we get as great a response as ISBA's getting with the online. I know Dina is involved with a caregiver conference that we're doing June 1st and 2nd, and they have 250 people just in the state. So I think that's just amazing how people sign up. But the other thing is, and I hope it's not the same thing for ISBA, the more things that we do virtually, we're getting about 50% in attendance of the people who signed up for the events. I don't know how everybody else is doing with that, but it's a little discouraging.
It'll be interesting to see for ISBA because people have paid.
Right, exactly. And then
Doris,
yeah.
I want to just point out, I guess, with just the timeline, because I thought that this was important too. With when we had our retreat, the summit was actually held in between the
Yes.
first and second retreat, which I think was really helpful for us because then we were getting that stakeholder input for when we went into the second retreat. We were able to incorporate that information. So
I think that's my next couple slides. And out of that first one came our first logic model, which we were really excited and proud about. And I thought Susan was going to jump out of her skin when she first saw it. So there you go.
I love my logic models.
I know.
Say?
So after that, then we used that retreat that we were all in with our core team. And our core team is NYSOFA, the state office, the county office for aging, where we are, and Lifespan and the coalition. So those are the people who were in those retreats. And that informed our next summit. So Jill was there, she spoke, it was really exciting. We had a lot of brainstorming and feedback. And so we were really looking to strengthen our state community partnerships, develop strategies. And I think this is all outlined by Arch if they're supporting you in one of these sustainability summits. But identify and leverage new respite funds and generate innovative activities for future development. We had, these were our brainstorms and what we were asking people in small groups, and we had someone typing it all up onto a big screen so that everybody could see them as they were coming up. We should call Jen the typist extraordinaire because that was a pretty stressful thing, I think. But those are the 4 questions we asked. What could we do to improve and enhance lifespan respite in New York? What would a dream system look like? And I just always remember the one that came out where the guy raised his hand and he goes, I want caregivers to be able to access respite any time of day or night, no matter what their resources are. Everybody should have access to respite. And that is the dream. What new services or models are needed and what changes in programs, policies, and practices are needed. And some of this stuff, when it came out, was more than the coalition could manage. It's certainly a lot of these suggestions were geared toward the state level. And I think we've done a pretty good job in speaking to them as we've gone through our work. But the most important part was our caregiver panel. It was powerful. I don't remember, Jill, I don't know if you remember it well, but people were just emotional and uplifted by hearing the stories of these caregivers. We had a caregiver of developmental disabilities, a spouse with Parkinson's who was also caring for 2 other people, a caregiver of a spouse with vascular dementia, and we had a mental health caregiver who right before she was going to go on got called away for an emergency for her caregiver, which really reminded us all that caregiving is you're on call 24 hours a day. So we were sorry we didn't get to hear from her. And these are our summit recommendations, and these are the areas. I'm not going to go through all of them because I think they would be very state specific as to what you would come out with, but really a capacity building, workforce development is huge, and I think it's huge across the country. Increased awareness and service utilization, collaboration, more funding, and more policy and legislative initiatives. Then we went into the second retreat, and that was in 2019 with the core team, and we did modules 3 and 4. Creating a strategic financing plan. You're going to be really excited, Susan. I have another logic model for you. And building organizational capacity and creating community support. So we really wanted to examine the effort in coalition building through the coalition, developing action steps, funding level scenarios, which I'll share with you, and identifying potential challenges to sustainability. So we looked at, I was asked to do this as the coalition director. So what are the levels of funding? So what could we do if we were operating at bare bones, and we looked at that as $100,000 one staff? You know, we could put out a monthly newsletter. We'd be able to do the annual conference. We'd hope we'd be able to continue our REST initiative stuff, but everything would be pretty minimal at that level. The ideal level was 200,000, 2 staff, and that's about where we are. Only we are moving into aspirational, and that is really exciting for us. But what I will say is, all this work has just I can't say it was an easy lift, Dina, but we did apply for the new opportunity through ACL to support our aspirational goals. So we're fingers crossed. We think it's a strong proposal, but I think it was the work that we did that we were able to do that in such a tight turnaround time. And kudos to Dina, who took the lead on writing that grant. It was an amazing amount of work. So this is our aspirational. We'd like to have a statewide spoken hub kind of thing where the coalition is the center, but we have staff and partners all around the state for caregiver resource centers. That's not the word though, quirk. Caregiver, what is it, Dina? Caregiver, you made it up.
Wellness, well, caregiver wellness and respite.
All right, so we're calling it quirk. Okay, so
Oh, the one I made up, we decided against.
do you want to share? Because everybody could use a laugh.
Well, I forget what the acronym. Oh, the acronym was RAC, and Doris was like, makes me think of somebody, you know, a woman's chest. And I was like, okay, well, we're not going there.
Okay, so our aspirations are to have the coalition really all around the state with those wellness centers, strong presence in the capital seeking monetary and legislative support for respite, active rest trainers in all 62 counties, robust data collection, and providing national support for master trainings for rest. And we are headed that way. And we're going to get there, sure. Someday. I might not be alive, but someday. All right. Here's your logic model, Susan. It's our respite financing strategies logic model. It's not big, but I'll send it to you after this so you can see it
I
big.
would love that. Thank you.
So what do we want to sustain? What are the outcomes that we're looking for in our potential funding sources? We did a really strong environmental scan because with COVID, everything has changed. It's crazy. Politically, financially, it's all out there. So there's our funding levels. We included that in the logic model. And we included our stakeholder and summit recommendations from the first one. And then we identified the activities that we needed to do and our performance measures. And so that was exciting to see as well. And I'm not a big fan of logic models, but I'm very proud of it. So there you go. Module 5, we just did this, when was it? April. So we did module 5, putting it all together, and we reviewed all the retreat outcomes, existing resources, and assessing feasibility effort versus yield, our current status of projects and funding, and what we'd accomplished. We did it in the same way, but I don't have pictures of all those pieces of paper. So what we really want to talk about, so we talked about our next sustainability summit and how we want to talk about how we get to that aspirational model, particularly in light of the new ACL offering. Systems navigation is still a struggle, and we'd like to address that. And the goal is still to grow and sustain the coalition. So we looked at, this is the environmental scan, political, economic, demographic changes, and strategic partnerships and collaboration. And that was also a good conversation. And finally, nope, that's my last slide on sustainability. And to know that I'm putting it to paper, at least the first draft, and I'll share it as soon as it's done.
Wow.
That was excellent, Doris. I can't wait to
Oh,
hear
thank
the
you.
whole-
See, and I think I'll come off better if I can just do that at ISBA and not read my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, live is always better. I agree.
Yeah.
That is so, it's so dense with good information. I'm just kind of blown away. You know, I taught doctoral level students at University of Washington, and one of the things that you see, and I taught research, is that it's like, it's a painful process going through, but you just see this growth. And that's what I observe in you, like this, but it's distributed. So you didn't get through this and go, God, I'm never doing the sustainability summit again.
No, we're going,
Like,
we got to do it every year.
exactly,
We got to.
exactly. And it's not painful anymore. Not
No.
very painful. Yeah.
Not
'cause
very painful.
And then, I mean, there's so much I want to say. The logic model stuff, you're like, you're not a fan of logic models. I don't think any of us are. And, you know, I see a lot of bad logic models, not yours. Yours are good. But the thing about it is, you're making this graphic representation of what you've been through and what you know. So you're just painting a picture because not everybody's gone through the process with you and understand it as deeply. So you can just look to it for that. It's documenting your thinking, your theory of change. You have a theory of how you're going to go about changing things, and you've put it down on paper, and you've done a good job of putting it down on paper. So really impressed by that. Oh, I had a question, because I think you said it at the beginning about the importance of the facilitator. And I just wondered, did you know what to look for, what qualities to look for? Did you just get lucky, or what would you recommend others look for?
We've been working with Tom since the beginning of the project. He's our project evaluator, so he knows it, he understands it. So there was no learning curve for him. He was just able to jump in and help us get there.
Right. Okay. So you don't want somebody that's just like a good talker. You want somebody that is actually.
Well, we did. We had him at our fingertips because he's our evaluator. So, if you use an evaluation specialist, maybe consider using them as your facilitator if they have those skills. I think Tom's skills are rare. What he was able to pull out of us. I don't know how you think about it, Dina, but what he was able to pull out of us was just amazing in those small blocks of time.
Yeah. Well, I
think he helped us not have to go, because I think when as Doris was mentioning, right, when you get a little overwhelmed when you're looking at the toolkit, it's all rich and helpful, but I think, and I can speak for myself, that I tend to overthink and go way too deep with my thinking, where I think, Tom's skill set of being able to kind of pull out the important pieces and help us focus, because he already kind of knows the track we're on, right? So it was he could frame it in a way that made sense, because he made it apply, if you're following me, where then we didn't have to kind of think that part through. He could kind of say, well, in this area or that area, and then it made it real enough for us to then be able to think about it that way. So it really, I think, just helped us move at a pace that was much more reasonable, because if we were to try to take that on ourselves, it would have took us a lot longer to get to that starting point, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think you need somebody outside of yourself. I mean, you can't participate fully if you're
trying to facilitate it. No. Yeah.
And you all have relationships, and you want to be free to interact without your pre-existing roles. You talked about, this was so cool, about the difference in the coalition self-assessment and the state. That's just such a good example of when you all work together, you kind of make assumptions about what the other person knows and what they think. And by having somebody outside, you open all that up, and it's safe. Everybody can participate safely without worrying about offending somebody or thinking what they have to offer is not that important. So I applaud you on doing that. That's really great. Taking notes about 10,000 things I love about what you've done. You finished.
I don't know if it would be possible if we didn't have as cohesive a group as we do. I mean, we are an incredibly tight-knit group in our work. And I just think that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So did this process help you become more cohesive, or did it change it in any way?
I think probably. What do you think, Dina? I mean,
yeah, definitely.
I think we understand each other better. I mean, and I think it'll be important. I would like to continue these retreats every year, just because it didn't this year. We did it virtually, but there's real value to bringing us all together in one room, I think, and, kind of feeding off each other's personalities. And and of course, in those retreats, food lined the back wall, and there was coffee flowing, and, just like the good old days.
Yeah.
It forces you to take the time out you need to strategically plan. I mean, just when you come down to it, I think you know, especially I would say over the last year or two, we've seen where, you know, staffing has declined and the workload has increased. And it's just like we are moving at such a rapid speed with all the work we do, and we produce a lot. And Doris is right, we're connected. I mean, we talk very, very regularly, but I think most of it is the immediate needs or what, you know, or a particular
Right.
project you're working on or a presentation, where with doing these retreats, right, it allows us a good day and a half to think, you know, strategically and plan. And you
Right.
don't really, unless you set the time aside and shut off the email and shut off the phone and not think about like what needs to be done tomorrow and be able to focus on the upcoming year, it really is very helpful.
Yeah, that's so good to know. I mean, because it's daunting, right? But if you think about a successful business or corporation, can you imagine them not gathering and planning every year? And here you are, you're running big, important, complex operations. So it just makes sense that you'd gather and do this. I think in the work that we do, or in not-for-profits, we don't have the same mindset about planning and about responsibility for planning and making sure. So I just think it's really cool what you've all done. Okay, I can't stop talking about this because my teacher's coming out, but Brooke and Ronell, what are you thinking after hearing New York having completed the sustainability toolkit like no one else ever has? I have to say.
Well, for me, you know, I'm new to my position coming to the state office, and I'm excited. Doris, what you did just share was amazing. And I know we're looking at getting all of our partners together to go over our strategic plan again. So you just gave me some good ideas. I've taken tons of notes. I can't wait for Isma to see your program all at what the whole thing. So and just soak it all in. So thank you so much. I'm excited. I think
Cool.
we've got a lot we can learn from you guys. So
Well, if we can be of any help, let us know.
always, thank you so much.
And they have that right now. New York has some things on the Arch website from their sustainability planning. I know we've posted in this group. Are they anywhere else, Jill, or all the materials we have through the link with the Sustainability Learning Collaborative?
Most of it should be there unless it's also related to performance measurement or some other aspect. It would all be on the sustainability.
Okay, I'll
page.
check it out. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would like to get a closer look at some of those logic models. They're kind of hard to read because there was so little. But they looked like they were full of a wealth of information. And also, what struck me most is the use of a facilitator. We've been considering using a facilitator for a while, but just finding that role in our evaluator has helped us with some of our coalition meetings to facilitate some activities there. And so I think that we would have a good natural fit there for people to do some moderating or facilitating for some of these activities. So I like that idea because I think it also, you know, I like the point that you made of people get out of their roles. Where we all just need to work on sustainability regardless if we are a state staff or the provider that's RFP'd with the staff or a state, or, you know, that everybody who touches respite, whether they receive respite, we administer respite programming, or a caregiver, we all need to work together and come up with a solution for sustainability. And that's where that mediator, facilitator would come in handy, I think.
So, any other observations? I'm just thankful again that we've gotten to be with you along this path and, you know, see your successes as you've gone and your perseverance in accomplishing this and your willingness now to go forward and stay strong and grow stronger. So I think it's wonderful.
I'll
All
just
good
add
things.
to, I did, because Abby, I know you mentioned, because Abby happened to come on board in July 2 years ago, and we had our retreat like a month after, right? It was
Oh,
probably
yeah.
2 weeks after she
I think
started.
it was like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and
She
so
took notes.
I think, yeah, and she took notes, which is great, but she actually shared with me when we came back that it was so helpful because that, she works with me in many program areas, but lifespan respite in particular, she was having a really hard time wrapping her head around the structure and, what we were trying to achieve and, the sustainability piece. So I don't want to speak for you, Abby, but I just remember you being like, that was so incredibly helpful for me as a new staff person.
Yeah.
So that was like another benefit.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it definitely was. I remember just being like really taken aback, when we first started, because I had only been in the job for like 3 weeks. But I think, like Doris and Dina said, I really think that having Tom as the facilitator, he really was able to like make us think about things and pull things out of us that I don't know we would have been able to do on our own. So it was really helpful to just like be able to wrap your brain around everything, even though it was a little fried at the end. But
We were all fried. We were all fried.
Yeah, you have to like dig down and think deep. So remember too, we talked about the list, like making the critical list. So if you win the lottery or join the circus or whatever, and don't return to your job and somebody has to step in your shoes, like, so all this work that you've done and put on paper and now are writing up, that's like handing that to somebody where they can see the process of where you've been and really clearly map out where you're going. That will save a program. I mean, that is, I think, one of the critical pieces of sustainability that you maybe weren't thinking about that per se when you did this, but that really, really helps.
You're right.
So wonderful. So let's have report ins now from Brooke and Ronell. What else is going on in the world?
I
You're-
don't know. I'm still learning it all. I feel a little bit like Abby. I'm just a little over a month in, and it's a different role. I've come from being that hands-on resource provider to now I am the oversight of those programs, and so switching that role's been a little bumpy for me because I'm like, oh, I know this answer, and I want to do that, but I gotta let the providers do that. But we're just. I think our goal is to get together and do our sustainability, our strategic plan meeting here soon. I just don't know when Nadine plans to have us do that just yet. We too wrote for the grant as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I think it was pretty solid of what Oklahoma is trying to accomplish as well and what we can do to even further that. But again, I'm still so new. I'm soaking it all in, just trying to hit the ground running and help our state grow stronger. So.
Yeah, you're gonna do great. But what you're saying, I'm feeling new, and I want you to look at New York. That they've been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so go easy on yourself. This is like, and enjoy the process, enjoy the ride.
Yes.
Yeah, I have no doubt about you, Oklahomans.
Well, thank you.
Those of you who wrote grants, did you build on your sustainability plan in your proposals?
Absolutely.
So you maybe have proposed new sustainability tasks in your proposal? I mean, so even if you don't get the grant, you'll have a plan to plan, as we were just talking
Well, I
about.
don't know if we included it in this grant, but we're still in year one of the other grant. So, they'd be running and the sustainability is embedded in this grant for
Right,
sure.
that's true, yeah.
That was for us too, and that's been mine and Nadine's thing. If we don't, and obviously it's a huge if we don't get it, guess what? We've got some really solid stuff in 3 years, so we're good. We feel so solid about what we did put in there, and it was good. It was rich, and it is worthy of if it doesn't this time, then we'll just try again, and that's we have hope in that.
That's so brilliant, because like I've seen over the years programs that just try and get the money, even if it doesn't match what they're going to do, and you're doing the opposite. You're looking for money that complements
Yeah.
your plans, and that's really a smart way to go.
Yes. Yeah.
And Brooke, what's on? You talked about being interested in the logic models from New York, and what else are you thinking about going forward?
Well, it's interesting. You know, we contract with the state, the state is who writes the grant in for this funding. And so, you know, we have to apply to provide lifespan respite through the state. So it's been an interesting last couple of weeks where we just kind of, because they could always choose a different provider or what have you. So it's kind of a different time for us. But we really looked at how we could sustain respite overall. We were looking at doing a summit with the rest of the grant funding this round. We're in our last year for the grant. But we ultimately have decided that we don't know that we have time to put together a virtual summit. The state leaders don't feel like they have time. And, you know, it was kind of like a last minute, we should do this type of an idea, where we don't know that we have the time or manpower or even technology expertise on our staff. So we would have to find a moderator, and the person we had found to facilitate or moderate isn't able to do it. And so it just isn't falling together. And so, because what I'm going to try to do is suggest that we try to build our online respite website that we've been working on, so that regardless if we get a grant or not, that caregivers can go to that website and find a respite provider with or without us. And so I think that might be the direction we go. We just proposed that idea to use the rest of the funding to do something like that. And of course, that's also in our grant that we just submitted. And then we also looked at how we could provide respite to caregivers if we broadened what we view as respite. And so one of the things that we put in our proposal was the opportunity to have an online community that right now we would start with a paid moderator or facilitator. But ideally, we would get somebody who is a caregiver to then lead that group. So whether you are feeling lonely and need support at 2:00 in the morning or at noon, or you can't find anyone, it would be kind of like a caregiver relief page where, you know, people could take that break when they can find the break from their loved one, and then get resources and support and camaraderie. And there's just so much value in that peer-to-peer relation that we are hoping to build that community. And then, you know, if eventually that community would be led by a volunteer. So we're giving that a shot. We also wrote in some mini grants into our grant to look at drop-in centers, because again, we have places where we can't find respite providers, or you know, making sure that we have high qualified respite providers to offer, because some people just aren't comfortable going onto a website and finding someone. So partnering with people who might already have a lot of the training in disabilities and feeding tubes and medications and dementia and Alzheimer's and those sort of things, to even just offer a drop-in type of care on a Saturday for shopping day. You know, like even just those small little, you know, because in rural Montana, we have a lot of people who travel a few miles to get to the Walmarts or the Costco's. And so if they had a place to leave their loved one for a couple hours that's not even in their home, then that might, because that's also the people we identify that's hardest to find respite for. You know, those people who live in the small communities or several miles out of a Montana metropolitan area.
Right.
That's kind of the thing, where the direction we're looking at going.
So it just strikes me as I listen to you, well, first of all, how deeply knowledgeable you are, and how different respite looks in a rural area than an urban area. But you started out with talking about like the difficulty of getting a summit together. I'm just going to urge you to keep that on the back burner. You just listed so many wonderful things. Remember when Laura was talking about like when they put on paper all the things that they were accomplishing, and how you suddenly go, oh, actually, I'm doing a lot of good. And that I think that process would be really great for you, and actually strengthen the things that you're attempting to do over time. It's like, it sounds to me, it's like getting that team together, like getting the right people together that are committed to the process. And I don't know, Jill, have you done a summit in Montana like ever or recently?
Oh, yeah, we've done a couple of them, but it's been a while.
Jill, I don't know, Brooke, you may have not done a summit with Jill, but
No, I don't think Brooke was not there yet.
she's good. So,
Well,
just
I
like-
wouldn't put it on me at all. It's the team on the ground.
yeah, well, it's
Did you
everything.
work, Brooke, at all with the state in helping to write the grant, or were you not part of that effort?
We did brainstorm ideas to put into the grant, but we're not allowed to
Because
help
you're a
write the grant because it
subcontractor.
would,
Oh,
yeah, it
interesting.
would disqualify us from the RFP process. So
Right.
how I answer that question is
Yeah, no.
scary
I
to me.
understand. I'm sorry. I should not have
But we
asked
did
that
not help
question.
write.
No, but this is when it gets interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, you have to know the state structure before you can even know how you can plan. When you were talking about like moderating and technology, you may not have the resources to do it, but Jill hired this really wonderful person for the International Research Conference that was like, she was brilliant. So there are people out there that know how to do that if you have the resources to do it. And then I would talk to New York, and I'd also talk to Nevada. They did a summit, and I sat in on some of their sessions, and they were really skilled in breakout rooms at getting caregivers to talk comfortably, openly, knowledgeably, along with providers. But I was really impressed. So, when you get to the point that you want to do that, reach out to other states and, let them inform you about what worked, and it'll make it much easier to do.
Yeah, Idaho actually just held an online summit last week that I participated in. And I think they're very connected to the university, where the state agency is. And I think it might have been a graduate student who helped facilitate and put that summit together for them. So I don't know if you have that kind of resource in the state, where you might be able to look to a graduate student program. It's a great place to find resources if you don't have the money to pay a lot.
Yeah, Brooke, those graduate students are like dying for community work and for things that they can write up for research. You just have to find the right one. But yeah, don't be shy about calling around.
Especially if you have a university center on excellence in developmental disabilities. Are you set?
Yeah, I think you do in Missoula. I wouldn't swear to it, but
Look at Oklahoma. That's their biggest partner there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I think part of the concern, with when I first started, there was a live summit that I went to with Sylvia, my person whose place I've taken, but it was amazing, all that we accomplished and all the different people who came to it. One of the concerns I think about doing a virtual summit is that I've been to 2 virtual summits in Montana. The first one went without a hitch. It was smooth operated, went well. The second one probably had, 200 or 300 more people on it, but our infrastructure for internet in Montana couldn't handle it. So you blocked out 3 days and you would log in and it would die. You couldn't get to your session. So there's some concern about that too, where we could invest in it and have a great mediator and have the skill set, but we just don't have in rural Montana, we just don't have the infrastructure yet.
Yeah.
Our governor is working
Very
on
good
it. I'm
point.
glad to hear that, but
Yeah, that's really important. When I was in Utah, we had a dish and I was at 6,000 feet. So like 7 months out of the year, I was sweeping the snow off, in order to get internet connection. That was after dial-up. That was really something else, but I hear you on that. So it may be something you want to wait for actually until either you have the internet capacity or we can gather in person. But
and it was a graduate student that we were working with actually that was going to.
Oh, that's great.
lead
Yeah.
it for us.
Another thing that they might deal with might deal with the internet issue is Idaho held their summits regionally, again, because they also have similar issues
Mhm.
around internet capacity and traveling and geography. So maybe if it was held in a smaller area, I mean, I don't know, does that affect internet? Probably not.
So if you could bring people together in a small group
Yeah.
that people felt safe in too. And
Yeah.
as more and more people get vaccinated, you know, our state's doing pretty good with the percentage of vaccinations and numbers and counts, you know, so I think people are wanting to come together too, which might be a benefit for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Well,
holding our first in-person event in June.
oh, great.
It is, we had money that we couldn't spend from our other grant.
Mhm.
And so we had to roll it over. And so we're holding a respite revival. We've partnered with a church in Western New York, and we're renting a big 40 by 40 tent. And we're bringing in Daphne Johnston from Alabama. I'm really excited. I don't know if you know Daphne, but she is the respite queen. And you can Google her. She's got lots of videos out there. So we're bringing together, there's like 30 drop-in programs in the Western New York area, some in the Finger Lakes region, but we're bringing together those people who run those programs and their volunteers because, and Jill, you'll be thrilled to know that I just sprung to have your Arch reopening toolkit kind of printed into beautiful glossy booklets.
Wow.
And we're going to just really talk about how we reopen respite and how we make it great and robust again and how we bring it back. We're really, really excited. And Dina and I are too, because we're going to get to see each other for the first time in a year and a half and go out to dinner.
Oh, yay.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
You know, we have
Yeah.
some hard copies of the new volunteer manual too, that has a little bit about COVID in it as well.
Are you sharing them?
I don't have a lot of copies, but I could maybe give you 10 or 20. I don't know if that would really
Okay.
help for people.
Well, I could always raffle them or something, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm
remember
excited
some of you
about-
had it, one of your summits said the section on liability was the best thing he had ever seen. So
Wow.
that might be
Yeah,
helpful for
you
some
know,
volunteer programs.
We took on liability at that first, well, it was our first conference because every time I talk to somebody about opening a drop-in program, that's the first thing out of their mouth. So it's a barrier you have to get past if you want people to open respite
absolutely.
programs. We'll send pictures.
It's getting quiet. Sounds like we're getting ready to wrap up. So I think it's wonderful, you know, being able to listen to one another and hear what we're all doing and watch the progress. And just a reminder, if you're at an earlier stage, reach out to your colleagues for help, reach out to Jill for summits. I'll help you with anything I can help you with, but just proud of you all. It's just,
Do you have summit? Are you offering summits, Jill? Could we take advantage of you for October?
I think that for a while I am only going to be available virtually.
Well, that's
I'm
fine.
ready to
But we
get
would
on an
love you to
airplane.
be there. We haven't sent our invites out, but we would love you to be there.
Thank you. I'm going to have to think long and hard about that and where we are with a research.
Well, it's a virtual summit.
Oh, it is? Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
definitely then, yes.
Yeah, we're sticking with virtual for October. The respite revival is a whole nother thing. And it's
Yeah, I
interesting
gotta
because,
send an invite to Lori too.
yeah,
Remember to do that
yeah.
after the conference next week. I feel like that's been the.
I know you need to get
we
through
went
that.
from the grant to the conference, and it's like.
You can only do one major event at a time.
I
Yeah,
know, but
it's
we're doing
really-
three in, I think
know.
3
I
in
don't know how
June.
you all do it. I don't know.
yeah.
I have no doubt your conference is going to be amazing. It's going to be
Well,
cool.
hi there.
Excited.
Hi. A little work buddy.
It's all
here.
that last minute stuff, and if we had thought about it, I don't think we would have selected the dates but I don't know why, but I was thinking Memorial Day was last week. So like the first day of the conference is Tuesday and we have a holiday in there. So
You
Today's
still have
it.
250 people
Yeah.
registered, so, you know, I think it's fine.
I think it's going to be good. And someone had mentioned, when you have the virtual events and like half attended, we had, when we did ours last year, I think we had over, golly, never mind, I don't remember, but we had well over half that did still attend our virtual conference. It was still a very good hit, and I have no doubt your guys will be too.
Thank you. We're excited.
So I won't tell you to have a relaxing weekend then, huh?
I'm going to still try, but
It's gonna happen.
yeah, there's a little pressure there, but it's all good. And actually, I think Doris, she said we had more registrants, but it was 250. But the way that we're doing it, because we invited professionals to attend the day of the caregivers,
Right.
the first day. So I think we were at 185 for professionals. This was a couple days ago, and then we were at 112 for caregivers.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
So we should
exciting.
hopefully have over, well over 100 each day, hopefully.
Excellent. Did you wind
Self-care
up
and
using
mental
anybody
health
to
being-
help you with the technology?
They're
Our
using
contact-
Hoova.
Yeah, Hoova. We're going to moderate the sessions ourselves. The planning committee is all going to chip in to do that and introduce the speakers. But the platform, we were very nervous. And like Doris said, we had quite a number of hiccups with Zoom and account owners and the admin rights. And so it was, but we think we've worked out hopefully we've worked it all out where it seems like it's all working now with the test. So fingers crossed.
And because they used Hoova and now they know how to do it, I bought Hoova for our virtual conference so they can teach me.
So is
Yep.
Hoova's like a Zoom-like thing?
What? It's a conference platform.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was on a call yesterday with the Family Voices people who are holding their conference in June. And they had a new platform. They said they've been through the Hoova experience. And
Uh-oh.
I don't remember well, it was good, but the one that they found now, they said was more user-friendly.
Do you remember what it was?
No, I don't remember.
So Dina,
But we're gonna be on it in June, Susan, so we'll know.
Yeah, maybe they talk about it on that training too.
Yes, it's on that training.
Okay, when I find out, I'll let everybody know in case anybody
I
wants.
hadn't even heard of Hoova till they started talking about it.
It's the first time I've heard of it, but I tell you, I try and stay away from all of this. Like I don't
Yeah,
want
we
to
left
know.
it totally up to them. We were like, whatever you're comfortable with, since they were kind of taking, the reins on setting everything up and managing stuff. So
Yeah.
Apparently a
So
lot of
far,
people
it's-
use it and are very happy with it, so I'm sure it'll be great.
Okay.
And Dina and Abby, just remember, whoever's, all of you on the moderating team, just make that shared text. Texting in the background will save your lives.
So you can communicate with one another while it's going on.
Yes, that's how we here in Oklahoma when we did ours. All
Oh.
of us so like Nadine, Aisha Stevens, myself, there were a few of us that were real heavy on who was taking care of what, and if there was anything, we were just in the background. No one had a
Texting.
clue that we were.
Yeah.
So, and
But
then
you
we
have to
debriefed
walk and
afterwards. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. We did that for the research
Yeah.
summit too, that we were able to text
Yep.
among each other and with the facilitator. Well, good luck with that. We're very excited for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I hope to see all of you at ISPA virtually.
We'll be there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And I'll miss you in January. And I wish everyone a happy summer, a happy, safe, healthy summer. And we'll gather again in August. It seems like so far away, but
And you'll be
Well,
so
and-
zen, Susan, after your retreat that we'll just all,
the last time I did a 20-day, I was like, my husband had a conference in Las Vegas right after, but it was his birthday. So I had to go with him to spend his birthday with him. And I was really nervous about it, getting out of 20 days, because you're like in a different zone. And we walked into the hotel in Las Vegas, and it turns out it was LEED certified for green sustainability, and there were a whole bunch of Buddhist monks in the lobby.
Oh,
Dear God. So yeah, I'll be bringing some like good stuff back with me for all of you and sending it all out while I'm there too.
Well, happy
Cool.
birthday early.
Thank you. It's a big one.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks
Thanks,
all
everybody.
for your
Thank
hard
you.
work. and
Bye.
inspiring.
Happy summer.
Bye.
Happy summer.
Summer to you.
Bye.
Take care.